Okay, hi everybody, and welcome back. And thank you for lasting all the way to the very end of day two, but definitely have left the best for the last. So you won't regret your decision to hang around. We don't get many opportunities in our life to directly talk to the people who buy your grain. So use this chance to ask them questions. And I'm hoping that my questions will just take up hopefully less than half of the session, and then we'll open the floor to producers. So just to let you know who's here in front of you, everyone's got their cameras on. So first of all is Steve Tapley, and Steve is the sales agronomist for Prairie Seeds, and Prairie Seeds has been in business for over 70 years, and they're located in Domain, Manitoba. They're a seed grower, processor, retailer, and end-use contractor, and they are fairly new to the organic sector. Dwayne Lee is here. He's the general manager of Growers International Organic Sales, Inc. And Dwayne is based in the company's head office in Winnipeg. DOC is a subsidiary of Patterson Grain, and they have been involved in the organic industry since the late 1970s. Clarence Schwalek is the director of farm operations for Manitoba Harvest. Some of you met him earlier at their talk from the booth. Manitoba Harvest is likely the largest hemp grain company in the world. You can correct me if I'm wrong on that, Clarence. Manitoba and Hemp Oil Canada are both part of Fresh Hemp Foods, and Clarence is based at the St. Agathe processing facility, which was originally built as a new Hemp Oil Canada facility. Josh Wittink is the zone merchant at Richardson International, and he's based in the head office in Winnipeg. Richardson is one of the oldest companies in Manitoba and one of the largest grain companies in the world. And gradually they have been scaling up the amount of organic oat purchasing that they've been doing over the last few years. And finally, but not least, Derek McLean. He's the senior grain buyer at Roquette Canada. Roquette just held its grand opening earlier this year, and if you didn't go, it was a really interesting event. They had an astronaut kicking off their new facility. This is their first official year buying organic peas in Canada, and let's hope it's not the last. So what I'm going to do is just ask a couple of really basic questions, and you guys can avoid answering if you want. And then I'll open the floor to the growers. So I'm just going to pick you randomly. Okay, Clarence, maybe for everybody who doesn't know who Manitoba Harvest is, maybe just say a little bit about your company.
Yeah, we're a hemp food processing company. So that's all we do is hemp food. We don't do fiber or CBD or anything like that. Been in business since 1998, since hemp was first legalized. And as Laura mentioned, I'm located at the St. Agathe facility, but we have two processing plants, one in St. Agathe and one in Winnipeg.
Okay. So Steve, what's your answer to that? What is your company?
Yeah, thanks for having us here. As you mentioned, I work at Prairie Seeds, but we are working closely alongside Merit Functional Foods, a Winnipeg-based yellow pea and non-GMO Clearfield canola processor based out of Winnipeg. Their plant is just on the north side of Winnipeg off Route 90, and they are focusing on contracting yellow peas and Clearfield canola in Manitoba and Saskatchewan for the purposes of protein extraction. This is going to be their first real year at contracting organic peas. So last year they did a little bit of it, but this is kind of the first big year of it. So lots to learn.
Okay. Hey, Derek, tell us a little bit about Roquette.
Yeah, well, everyone knows that they've invested, the Roquette family's invested A lot of money to put up the facility in Portage. We've opened our doors to fractionating and crushing since approximately November of this year. We did our first organic contracting this last year, and we'll be doing some going forward. So we look forward to being part of the industry.
Okay, and Josh.
Yeah, again, zone merchant here at Richardson and helping out with our organic gold program that we're looking to expand and make connections with and help grow the industry.
So what is a zone merchant?
I was saying in the few breakout sessions I hosted, essentially I help kind of oversee the grain buying strategy and the shipping strategy for a few of our northern Saskatchewan locations, Dauphin, Swan River, and Whitewood, Saskatchewan as well. And then, like I said, on kind of procurement of organic oats, and our program there is kind of one of the programs that help oversee outside of our locations.
Okay. And Dwayne, in case somebody has been living under a rock and has never heard of Growers International, what do they do?
Sorry. Yeah, so we're a division of Patterson Global Foods. Been in and around the organic industry for a number of years. So we've got 3 elevators in Saskatchewan, Herbert, Lang, and Indian Head that we buy grain from. We also do on-farm pickup, and basically buy it, store it, blend it, clean it, and ship to customers wherever they may be.
Are the elevators specialized for particular products, or are they about just being close to producers in certain areas?
It's just mainly about being close to the main growing regions in Saskatchewan. I mean, of course, there's organic producers all over the place, but predominantly we are on the CP rail line in the south, and we buy multiple products into each facility. Herbert and Lang are purely dedicated to organics, and Indian Head is a conventional and organic facility.
Okay. Okay. So I'm going to change up the order here. So let's start with Josh this time. So tell us about kind of what volumes of oats you're expecting to purchase in 2022. If you can comment on pricing or where you see pricing going and whether it's going to change over the year, and anything related to quality that's special that you're looking for.
Well, on the quantity side of it, that's always going to be driven by the demand that we're seeing from end users. So it's really hard to put a number on that. For the rest of the 2022 until new crop here, definitely, obviously, we had a dry summer, and I think everyone obviously has seen where prices have gone and can kind of formulate where those end stock numbers will probably be. But that being said, I think we feel, as I said earlier in the day, we feel we have aggressive pricing on that kind of. We're looking for April, May, kind of anywhere from $16, $17 a bushel, depending on if you're doing a delivered contract into Portage or Barhead or a farm pickup. So there's a lot of factors there, but we've definitely jumped in the game and provided growers with we feel some pretty good options and some good pricing and good movement, and we continue to be aggressive on, like I said, on that April-May period. So as for the new crop here, I think we see prices hovering in that $9 to $11 a bushel range, and we'll see what the rest of the winter brings, and we'll see kind of what growers and yourselves are looking for on prices.
Okay, so Dwayne, we'll get you in near the front on this one. Quality, quantity, pricing, and also what are you buying? You're buying multiple products.
Yeah, I mean, we typically buy wheat, durum, barley. On occasion, we'll buy oats and rye. Yellow peas and flax are those are sort of our main product lines. I mean, I guess we're always looking for opportunities around those. Presently looking for old crop wheat. We're bidding $23 delivered based on a 2 CWRS 12.5 protein. Also looking for feed wheat. Bidding $15.50 delivered for that as on that. So like I say, and then I guess just show us what you've got, and we'll certainly do our best to come up with a competitive bid for you. So new crop, hard to say at this point. I mean, there's lots of moving parts, of course, but high prices cure high prices, low prices cure low prices. Probably, assuming we get some sort of normal precipitation, thinking that values probably get down to closer to that $17, which would be more of historical averages. But again, I guess give us a call, let us know what you're thinking. We also look at target pricing as well. So.
Okay, Steve?
Yeah, so in terms of quantities of organic yellow peas that Merit Functional Foods will be buying this year, that number is to be determined, I would say. In terms of non-organic peas, we're going to be trying to process around 20,000 ton, and a rough estimate for the ratio of organic peas to that is probably a quarter of that right now. But again, that demand is very dependent on a number of things. In terms of the organic pea protein market, there's definitely a lot of consumers out there and buyers that are interested in the product, but there is a handful of challenges that we're facing to keep that domestic with the low price of organic pea protein in China. So it's the pricing on it. I can't really comment right now on what our price would be. We're still working on what a new crop contract price would be. But it's with the pea market, it sure seems like somewhat of a moving target. Quality specs, some of the bigger things that Merit is trying to achieve is organic pea protein that is completely non-existent of soy contamination. So the rotation restrictions on Merit contracts are revolving around 2 years free of soybean, and in preference of having a year free of wheat or gluten in that case. So those are kind of the two big quality standards. Their processing and or the raw specs are up to a human number 2 pea or better. And yeah, I mean the two big quality parameters are around the soy and gluten contamination. So working with growers to ensure that doesn't happen. And like I said, with the pricing, that's a question mark still, but we're working on that contract as we speak. Okay,
Clarence?
Okay, so what we're contracting right now is organic hemp at $2.03 per pound. That includes our variety premium for using our company supplied genetics. We do have storage premiums that add on to that starting on January 1st of the new year. So as product is stored, we do pay extra for that being stored at the farm. Our quality specifications, 99.9% purity. We are a gluten-free facility, so we are watching on the rotations that follow wheat. We want to make sure that hemp is, ideally it's planted right after the plow down. That gives you the best chance at good yields. And that's the best place to put it in the rotation in our perspective. We do work with seed cleaning facilities, get your product off to a facility before it gets cleaned, and they do the foreign material removal before it comes to our facility.
So if somebody grows wheat, are they excluded from your program?
They're not excluded. We just need to realize that our seed cleaners will be cleaning to remove wheat to get it free to a gluten-free spec. So it may result in additional cleanout. So that's something that our agronomists will work with the grower on to make sure that we have it in the ideal spot in the rotation.
Okay.
And I guess on quantity, Right now, the sky's the limit. We've been limited on what supply has been. We've got more demand than we have supply. We're always living hand to mouth at the end of each crop year. So if you build it, we will buy it.
So you've never actually met your company's maximums for throughput?
It's always a constant battle between what sales can do and what I can supply, and so far I'm barely keeping up.
Okay. Okay, Derek, what about you?
Yeah, so we're obviously in the yellow pea business. I would expect for this year, our plan is to have our numbers very similar to last year. In regards to where do I see this market and where are we going with it, very similar to what Clarence and Steve's comments are in regards to, I think there's a lot of unknowns out there. We have lots of customers that are asking us every day for an organic product. So we're gonna be looking as we go through our 5-year plan to be able to satisfy their needs. And so we'll be in the market aggressively trying to purchase that organic yellow pea. At the end of the day, what we're doing today, and I'll same as Steve, is that, you know, we're trying to figure out where the market's at. We realize yellow peas has to compete with the other organic commodities. So we're looking at that. We hope to have our organic contract out here in the next week or so.
Okay, so I hope that everybody out there is thinking up their questions. I mean, I can ask questions all day, but I'd like to hear from growers. So I'm going to do another round, and then I hope you'll have your questions ready. You don't have to put up your hand, just turn on your camera, and then I'll know that you're ready to ask away. So think of your question while I come up with this one. So putting on your prognosticator caps and, you know, not knowing anything about the weather in 2022, whether we'll even be able to grow a crop in the Canadian prairie, assuming that we will, what are some of the other factors that come into play for your crops? Like, what are the end user demand characteristics like, i.e., who's eating hemp, who's eating fractionated protein products, who's still eating wheat, and what is going to happen with that trajectory in the future, and why are they choosing organic? So you guys are insiders in the industry. You know a lot more than I do about your own markets. So maybe just think about what some of those factors are that are going to matter. Like if food services opens up all of a sudden when COVID ends in 2022, is that going to upset your industry or be a positive, for example? So Dwayne, I'm going to randomly choose you to go first on that one. So you're buying a lot of products, so you probably have it's hardest for you to answer that.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I'll just frame it up in terms of wheat. The pea experts are certainly on the panel here. So, but I would say a couple of things on wheat. I mean, the demand trajectory looks pretty good at least from what I can see. The markets, as the economies open back up, you've got more people getting together. Eating patterns change a little bit. You've got, you know, people going to football games and hockey games, and usually with that goes a hot dog or a hamburger, and they need buns, and so more restaurants opening up, that kind of thing, and it tends to be a positive for bread consumption. And certainly we continue to see the milling wheat demand from at least from everybody that I've talked to, seems like it continues to grow. So I think the demand trajectory is pretty good. The other big pieces of the puzzle, of course, obviously the big one's weather. You know, farmers will plant everything they can plant and want to plant, and you know, it's really about yield and you know, this past year we've got we still have a lot of diversity out there, or adversity out there, with regards to residual dryness from the last years, and both Canada, the U.S., and so those will certainly have an impact. And then freight, supply chain components, right? I mean, container availability, ocean freight, all of that stuff has an impact on how things go forward. And the volatility has been unprecedented. So we'll just have to wait and see.
Okay. Okay, how about you, Derek? I am curious about, what kinds of product does organic protein powder end up in? Like, I'm not seeing a lot of those meat alternative companies being organic per se. Are they just using organic ingredients is maybe my question.
That's a good question. I can't answer what some of those customers are doing. From our aspect, I'll tell you this, that we have a lot of food customers today in the industry, mostly in North America, that we plan on servicing. They continue to ask for different products. The customers continue to ask for, have different choices. They want choices. They want gluten-free products. They want the plant protein surge, I think, is what Roquette's focus is on over the next number of years. But over this last year with COVID, what I can tell you is on the pea protein side overall is that, the spend, I think there were some economic hardships in certain industries, and the pea protein kind of went down. It was tight. Values went down, stuff like that. So on the organic side, kind of looping back, is we have customers that continue to ask for it, but we haven't been able to get them what they want yet. So we're in our first year of that. So we look forward to it in the next couple of years. But there'll be anything from mostly for this point, there'll be in a lot of food baking products where the protein will be, where we'll see them. A lot of products, it just won't be in the fast food sector. I don't think anyways, Laura.
Yeah, because when I go into the grocery store and I see those alternative meat burgers, it seems like that on a per unit basis, they're already more expensive than meat. So you add in organic to that and you've got quite a significant price tag, I would guess.
Yeah, so Beyond Meat is one of our larger customers today on the conventional side. I don't deal with them directly. We have a sales team that does that. I don't think they're asking specifically for organic, and you're exactly right. It's, making choices. The plant protein is usually more expensive.
Yeah. Okay. On that topic, Steve, do you have anything I don't know if you're privy to kind of the end user side of things.
Yeah. I'll be honest. I'm where I'm involved in the merit process is more in the field and agronomy based. But in talking with the sales team at Merit and that whole part of the business, there are some sectors that the Merit team is talking to that are maybe not as conventional or common that most people would imagine pea protein being in, and also the Clearfield canola protein that Merit is making too is a whole other side of this. But there are some companies that are utilizing pea protein in ways that they're kind of figuring out still, whether that be cosmetics or dairy substitutes. The texture of these protein products is making it very versatile. And, it might be outside of a lot of these, standard protein bars that, we see the label of pea protein being in, or a meat alternative. There's a vast amount of products that people are finding use for these products. And again, slapping an organic label on that will absolutely reach a whole other sect. The price point, we'll go back to that again. That's going to be a real challenge. I know that they're facing that. I think I'd mentioned before, organic pea protein, the prices that domestic buyers can get out of China is something we're up against. Trying to cater contract price with growers to be able to compete with the end use price is becoming a challenge. But yeah, the when the samples of this organic pea protein is going out, the feedback that I'm being told about is very positive. It's really good. A lot of these companies like the product, they want to use it, and there's a lot of potential there. But I think just the current landscape of the market, the dust needs to settle a little bit there. But it's positive. The outlook is very positive, and it's going to continue in all the products we're already seeing, and if not more.
Okay, so Clarence, you work for a company that does retail, so you're obviously extraordinarily connected to your end user. So who's buying hemp? Why are they buying it? And what's driving this endless expansion in your plant?
Well, the brands that we put out, and I'm sure most people have seen the Manitoba Harvest brands on the shelf. We're known for hemp hearts. That's basically the shelled hemp seed, our protein powders, and our oil products. And our oil is omega-3 and 6. A healthy oil product. Our proteins, just going on with the plant-based protein theme, that's real popular amongst consumers. But anybody who's looking for healthy diet choices, organic also comes into that equation. So, we are seeing that people that are looking for those healthy products are also considering organic as part of what they do. Now, not only do we put our products into those three that I mentioned, but we're also looking at expanding our offer into granola, into cereal bars, into hemp beverages. We have a hemp milk product as well. So hemp hearts may not be on every shelf, but granola is everywhere. So we're expanding the use of our products and our brand and getting that out to more consumers. Now, you did ask the question, Laura, about whether COVID had an impact. What we saw is a shift from retail from retail to online sales in the early parts of COVID, and I think that's come back now to a certain extent. We didn't see a drop in sales, so we're still continuing to see that growth. And despite COVID, we're still getting product out to consumers, whether it's in one way or another. We've got a pretty versatile supply chain.
Okay, thank you. And Josh Richardson, I know your clients are food processing companies, right? But you make consumer products, so you probably know who's buying the rolled oats and products like that. Can you comment on that?
Well, at the end of the day, I think Steve kind of hit the nail on the head with it sure seems to be a cat and mouse game with end users and with prices that growers are locking in for the organic oats. Yes, we do, flour and flakes. I think the rest of this crop year is going to be obviously what kind of demand are we going to see from those end users at the prices that we're going to go to. And then on new crop, it's going to be, I think we're expecting, oat acres to probably increase, potentially 5 to 10%. So it's what kind of carry in are we bringing from 21, 22? What does the 22, 23 crop look like? I think that's going to kind of drive the price and what kind of demand, and if we're moving more hand to mouth, and kind of who's going to flinch first on that from an end use customer.
Why do you think that oat acres are going to go up?
That's what we've been hearing from locations and talking with growers, and I just think obviously you see high prices like that, it's hard not to expect to see some acres go up on not just organic but conventional as well.
Okay, Scott, you can turn your camera back on and ask your brain busting question.
Okay, here I am. You're all free to answer this, or none of you if you don't like the sound of it. Laura and
Stuart?
Who was your partner earlier?
Stuart.
Laura. Anyways, we had heard about the demand of organic product that used to come out of Japan and South Korea, I guess, predominantly, and we've seen it kind of wane in recent years. I guess I'm wondering if any of you guys have some thoughts on what's going on to try and attract those buyers back, and who needs to be responsible to try and do that work, whether that comes from government or private sector, or where we need to do some work to try and get some of those markets back.
Oh, I'll maybe take a quick stab. You know, with the Korean stuff, it really has to do with, I think it's a lot of it's barrier to entry. You know, anytime you can get equivalency agreements in place that level the playing field, reduce barriers to entry, I think that is certainly helpful. In the case of the Korean, you've got a whole new certification process you got to go through. It's expensive, it's time consuming, and to me, that's one of the bigger barriers to entry on something like that. So, you know, I think that's, you know, it's a role for CODA and other organizations that can try and to help sort of level that playing field as much as possible and keep the rules the same.
Does anyone else want to jump onto that question?
I could jump on that from the hemp perspective. Now, South Korea was a major market for Canadian hemp a few years back. And, you know, it went gangbusters for a little while and then dropped right off the map. What happened there is that the Chinese supply took over that very, very quickly. They saw what the South Koreans were willing to pay and brought in a much cheaper product at a much lower freight. So that one still is out there. The market's still available. But from our company's perspective, there's some conventional going down there, but it's pretty limited right now. The Japanese market, very strongly based on quality. And our company did have a chance to try get into that marketplace just with our brand and getting it on retail shelves out there. Where we are successful today, and it's still a small amount of product going out there, is through Costco. And, you know, Costco is located there. We have a good relationship with Costco here in North America, and they're just using their success here in North America to launch into Japan with our product. But very much a quality game. And I think we've got that part nailed down, but getting the retail space has been challenging in some cases.
Anyone else want to comment? Okay, Zach Grosser, do you want to unmute yourself and ask your question? Okay.
Hear me now?
Yep.
Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, I just had a question on if you guys work with growers that do intercrops, or if your quality specs basically need them just to grow monocrops.
I can
take
jump
that?
on that.
Oh, go ahead, Clarence.
Sure. And that's a topic, Zach, that I think one of our agronomists would be pretty keen on talking about. There has been some thought given to intercropping with legumes of some sort. And that's just to help with the nitrogen fixation in the soil. So I'd probably want to divert that to one of our agronomists to have a detailed conversation on what may work as far as quality and maintaining a good yield of the crop.
I can speak a little bit from our side as well. So Zach, we would have done some last year, some what I would consider trials. I'm very similar to Clarence. I am not an agronomist. We have agronomists on our team to help our growers. So as we look at a 5-year plan, I think what we'll probably get to at some point, we'll look at bringing more intercrop acres on over time and making sure that we can do what we want. The one thing that's that's tough with intercrop, and maybe it's just because the year we went through this last year is yield, full production contracts. What's the expected yield as we try to plan our side of the business on our side? So, but if you're interested in the conversation, feel free to reach out.
Okay. And how
I can
does
make a quick comment there too. From the Merit side, they, like Roquette, they are working with intercropping growers more and more. It seems actually over the last couple of years here, it's just only increased the amount of growers that we've been dealing with who are doing, whether it be a piola intercrop or a pea and canola intercrop or pea and oats or pea and barley. There is a handful of intercrops we've been working with, and there's been some really cool research being done with provincial institutions, and I think Roquette was doing some pretty neat work with that too. So it's the demand for it. It's from a grower standpoint. I know there's a lot of agronomic benefits and incentives for the guys to do that. But there's no shying away from that in terms of contracting. We welcome it and like the agronomic challenge, that's for sure.
Right on. Thanks, guys.
Okay, Mr. Grant Rigby, do you feel like asking your question live? You out there? Maybe not. Grant says, I offer to grow organic peas at 200% of whatever the contracting price for non-organic peas becomes. This would require processors to have the discipline of always marketing organic pea products at 200% of the price of non-organic to ensure possible adequacy of pricing for we growers to compete for land and equipment. Does anyone, you guys can read it yourselves. Does anyone want to take that one on?
I'll touch it. It's, I like it. We need to push things forward. And when you work with a crop that's not a regular commodity like wheat and barley and all these other products, I think we have to be creative as an industry to find pricing strategies for these pulse crops. So Grant, so thanks. We are looking at stuff like that. Always interested in having conversations with regards to it. So yeah, it's a good comment. I like it.
Okay. Any other questions? Does somebody want to turn their camera on and ask away? David Rourke, you must have a question. You always do. Nobody? If not, I'll just ask a few more of my own. Okay, the big question that comes to my mind, Stuart, go ahead.
Yeah, I was kind of curious. I mean, kind of going back to one of Wayne's comment there about, and I completely get it and understand that market volatility right now and uncertainty of where US acres are going to go, Canadian acres are going to go, the difficulty in having a forward contract price. I mean, after this pricing year, I mean, I've forward contracted some prices that I was really disappointed at because, of course, the market skyrocketed above it. Yet, I don't like going into a planting season without having a certain percentage of my crops locked in. When do you think we might start, and I asked this to everybody on the group, as to when do you think we might start seeing forward contract prices being offered? Because we're now getting towards the tail end of winter and it's pretty quiet out there in terms of forward contract prices.
I can touch on that. We have, like I said, I threw out the indication of that, and we had talked earlier in the day, obviously, but kind of that $9 to $11 range. We have bids in the country. It's, again, not to keep using the cat and mouse term, but that's kind of where indications are. So we have a bid out there, and we'll continue to see what the year brings. But they said it's we have it available anyways. If anyone's looking to have a conversation with the local elevator, or send myself an email and I can get you in touch and I can answer questions. But we do have that pricing available.
It's interesting, Stuart, that you asked where the contracts are. I've been sitting back wondering, where are the farmers? And I'm thinking that a lot of growers are just sitting and watching prices and where things are rolling out to see where their best option may be for locking in a return per acre. So I'm thinking growers are still holding back at the moment. Contracts are available, and they have been for a while from our side anyways.
No, and I appreciate you were very early in coming out with what's a very attractive and historically high contract price. So I think it gave growers who are in a rotational perspective or able to grow hemp and are either experienced in growing it a great indication of, hey, I'm going to allocate as much acres as I can into hemp at this price, because that pencils out and makes sense. Sadly, we don't have any acres that were in that position. What I'm kind of curious, though, as I know this ties in on the conventional side too, is that seed supply is crazy tight. If you sit around and wait till April to decide your cropping options, you likely may not even get the seed, period. I mean, I'm sure you probably have a decent supply of seed yet, but probably your seed growers' yields were down like everybody else. So the quantity of certified seeds got to be pretty low.
Yeah, quantity is good. We always overproduce on the seed side. Anything surplus goes into our conventional food line. So we are carrying over seed, and that actually leads into a good statement here. And we're maintaining our seed price from last year on bulk certified hemp seed. And that's because we're working off old cost models. So we are growing some certified here this year in 22. So I can expect that our blended seed price will go up next year, but we've decided to hold the line this year to make sure that we can just give growers at least a bit of a break on input costs for certified seed this year.
Were you thinking of any crop in particular, Stuart, where you would like to see a contract price come out?
For ourselves in our farm, we've got a significant portion of our, we've got all our seeds purchased. It's just if I want to shift some acres into something else, I
think Stuart,
my seed suppliers wouldn't be disappointed if I said, actually, I need all that. But it's an alternative crop. It's not showing muted. Is there an audio trouble?
Yeah, you were coming in and out there, so we didn't get the answer.
Yes. Yes. No, what I wanted to say is that I think for our main crops, we're all paying for barley or spelt or something else at a very good price. We would consider it.
Okay. One of the questions that I have, and we'll probably let you go after this because it's 4:31, is what's the breaking point? I don't know if you saw, Stuart, in my presentation earlier where you saw some relatively stable organic pricing over the last 7 years or so, and then a crazy spike this fall. So we saw that same pattern in 2009 and 10, and we lost a lot of processors as a result. They went into marketing their products as natural, and I assumed that was because the business model couldn't withstand the doubling of input prices in a single year. Are we going to see that kind of thing happen again this year? We're at $30 wheat now. What's the tipping point?
I'll maybe touch on that a little bit. I think you are seeing it in some products already. I think of durum, for example. The demand for durum is actually down, and there's two things. One is at times you reach price points, where they can't pass the prices on to the consumer, or the consumer's not willing to pay. And so you see outright demand. And then the other thing that happens when you got really tight markets is just the ability to get offers. And, things like the flax market. I mean, it's really tough just to find product. I mean, and so it's hard to put business together if you don't have some level of liquidity and offers, because they don't know what they can actually buy, so they don't know what they can sell, and so then it just ends up being a whole lot of nothing. And so for certain things it depends, right? I mean, it's about liquidity, and certain commodities handle it better than others. And so in most cases, the commodity price is a relatively small portion of the end use price, but there are some limitations for sure. So it really is dependent on a range of things. But
for something like raw hemp seed, I'm guessing it's a big chunk of the final product, though. Maybe not so much for value added product, but for the raw ingredient product, it would be.
Yeah, that's definitely the big driver of our price to the consumer. And where's the limitations? We are seeing some Eastern European hemp seed coming into the United States, not here into Canada, but to some of our US markets. It's about 10% of the total market in the US is taken up by imports. We saw this a few years ago with Chinese product threatening to come into North America as well. There is a tipping point. Now, we're committed to a Canadian source of our product, but if there's product that's coming in from other countries that undercuts us, that becomes attractive to a retailer. So we all need to be careful on that.
Yep. Any other comments on that question? No. Anyone else out in the audience have any other questions to squeak under the wire? It's 4:34, and if there's no other questions, I'm going to hand this over to Karen Claassen. But before I do, thank you all so much for the information that you've given us. I'm sure it would be very helpful if you were an organic producer to be able to chat with a buyer. And Karen's nodding her head because she is one. So thank you guys. And for everyone else out there, thank you for coming to the conference. It was fun hanging out with you.